Let's head straight now to our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, for the latest transfer news in this, what's been a pretty busy transfer window, but just in a bit of a lull at the moment, hasn't it? Morning, Crookie.
Good morning.
2 words again, one name, Benjamin Sesko. What's the latest?
Well, the latest is pretty grim reading, I think, for Newcastle fans. We reported yesterday Manchester United had finally come to the table with a rival bid to Newcastle's offer, actually worth slightly less than what Newcastle are prepared to pay, 75 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons. And I think once this offer went in, Newcastle fans feared the worst because the brief coming out of Old Trafford, excuse me, was that Manchester United would only bid once they got buy-in from the player. And I've been told this morning Newcastle pretty resigned now to the fact that Sesko only wants to join Manchester United. No agreement between the two clubs yet, but they're working on that. But I'm told Newcastle will move on to alternative targets. Another blow for Eddie Howe. There's been a few deals that got a long way down the line that Newcastle haven't quite been able to pull off this summer. But I think in some ways you have to praise their ambition for going after the likes of Dean Howson, João Pedro, and now Benjamin Sesko, when they knew that more established clubs, should we say, in terms of the Premier League Big Six, were also sniffing around.
Yeah, so without Sesko then, where are they now going to focus their attention, Crookie? There's got to be another name out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Johan Wissa talks continue with Brentford. I think there's some confidence that Newcastle can get that deal done, but arguably they need not one but two strikers in this window. Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa is another potential alternative. Lois Openda is a name that's been mentioned to me. And I know they've been offered Nicholas Jackson as well. He's been hawked around by intermediaries. Chelsea, I think, willing to cash in on him. What does it mean for Alexander Isak? Well, I think unless they can allow one of those big names, I don't think Johan Wissa would quite cut the mustard. I think the likelihood now is that Alexander Isak won't be allowed to leave this window.
The revolving door continues at Anfield. Crookie, Darwin Núñez and Harvey Elliott could be the next two through the exit side.
Yeah, there has been a suggestion this morning that Al Hilal have reached an agreement with Liverpool for Darwin Núñez. That's been played down by talkSPORT sources. At the moment, they're still discussing personal terms with the player. Only once they've agreed with him will they make a formal bid for Liverpool. Harvey Elliott is certainly one to keep an eye on. Lots of interest from the Premier League. The likes of West Ham United have tried for him. And we're hearing at the moment that Leipzig, in the news, are the latest club showing an interest. I think that will be dependent on Xavi Simons completing his move to Chelsea, but there's every possibility that once that happens, Leipzig do make a formal bid to Liverpool.
Yeah, a lot of ins and outs there, aren't there? A lot of ins and outs. Look, West Ham have been pretty quiet this transfer window. Any movement down there?
Yeah, the goalkeeping situation is an interesting one. I think they made it clear right from the start of the summer that they wanted a new number one. Obviously, they let Fabianski go at the end of his contract. Not convinced, I'm told, Graham Potter by Alphonse Areola, who made a high-profile mistake in their first pre-season game over in America against Manchester United, gave away a penalty inside the first 5 or 6 minutes of that game. They've been in talks with Botafogo about John Victor. Looked like that deal would probably happen because Botafogo are signing Neto from Bournemouth on a free transfer as his replacement. And then last night I was told that actually they remain in talks, West Ham, for Mads Hermansen at Leicester, and that he is the preferred option with Graham Potter and his coaching staff. I don't think they'll sign both John Victor and Mads Hermansen, but at the moment it looks like Hermansen more likely.
Yeah, and still, Crookie, big names like Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell, Jack Grealish, these guys that you'd have thought someone would have been all over the guys like that very, very quickly. Those guys still hanging around, still sitting around, still waiting.
I'd keep an eye on Everton when it comes to Jack Grealish, because they were keen on Tyler Dibbling from Southampton, have been unable to meet Southampton's asking price. I think Southampton want a fee of around £50 million, which Everton have decided is too rich for them. So Jack Grealish comes back onto their radar. In terms of Raheem Sterling, I reported this yesterday, his preferred option is to stay in the Premier League, indeed to stay in London. And again, there is a link between Raheem Sterling and Graham Potter at West Ham. I think they had a good relationship when Potter was Chelsea manager. West Ham, I'm told, one of the clubs tracking that situation, along with Crystal Palace and Fulham.
Crookie, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Crookie.
Yes, guys.
Thanks, Crookie. Got a text from Joe Clark about Wolves. Is any Wolves transfer news Crook, he said only Liverpool, Newcastle and Manchester United are making deals right now. Well, the last Wolves rumour I saw was that Axel Disasi from Chelsea was on Vitor Pereira's wanted list. So whether that happens or not, well, it remains to be seen.
He had a spell, didn't he, Jeff? He had a spell at Villa. Axel Disasi. I'm not totally sure what his best position is. Is he a centre half, right back, somewhere in between? I mean, look, he can play in a 3. Of course he can, no doubt about it. And again, I think a lot of managers, a lot of coaches very aware that they've got to make sure that their squads are thick enough and fat enough to cope with another Premier League campaign.
Do you think we're at the stage now in the transfer window where things have gone a little quieter because everyone is now waiting for the last couple of days to see if they can pick up a bargain?
Yeah. I do think that there's a lot of clubs that, of course, are hampered very much by PSR, by their own finances, etc., within the 4 walls. So they'll wait and see. Honestly, Jeff, I think once the first game starts and a couple of teams get off to a bit of a bad start, couple of injuries, all of a sudden they'll be dipping their toes straight back in that market before September the 1st or whenever it is it closes.
Just very, very briefly want to mention this because I'll forget otherwise, and it's a great initiative. Sunderland announced yesterday that any season ticket holders of theirs who are 85 or over and have had a season ticket for 3 years will get their season ticket free of charge.
Brilliant.
This season.
Great, isn't it?
And if they've already paid for their season ticket, they're going to give them a complete refund.
Oh, brilliant.
And it's a little gesture, but it's a fantastic gesture.
Great gesture.
As well, especially bearing in mind they are back in the Premier League now. So Sunderland, very well done indeed.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.